Joining me now is Sky News contributor Kosha Gator. And Kosha, we have a lot of US news to unpack, but let's start in the UK and the extraordinary case of former footballer Joey Barton, who has been handed a suspended sentence for social media posts that caused distress and anxiety. These were posts about broadcaster Jeremy Vine and a couple of soccer pundits. Free speech is well and truly dead in the UK. Let's hear from Judge Andrew Maneri at the Liverpool Crown Court after a jury found the ex-Manchester City and Newcastle player guilty.
I have no doubt that neither a fine alone nor a community order can be justified, and that the custody threshold is crossed. There will be concurrent terms of imprisonment for each of these associated offences, the sentences for each reflecting your overall offending. I'm satisfied that it's not necessary for those custodial terms to be served immediately. In light of the steps you have taken, I am persuaded that there is some prospect of rehabilitation.
Kosha, well, I'm glad the re-education is working and he's not going to jail. He's got a suspended term there, but he's also been hit with 200 hours of unpaid work in the community and more than 20,000 in pounds in costs, all for social media posts calling a couple of soccer pundits the Fred and Rose West of football commentary and superimposing their heads on that infamous picture of Fred and Rosemary West. I mean, really, the whole notion that you can be brought before the courts, found guilty, possibly sentenced to jail for things that are causing anxiety, not things that are defamatory, things that are threatening, things that are just offensive.
Another one bites the dust. And it is extra sad in the UK, land of the Magna Carta. We've talked about this before, the birthplace of the principle of free speech. And to see that happening there just cuts extra deep. And when they go after cultural figures or famous people, imperfect though they may be, Joey Barton and others, Graham Linehan, the comedian, My Father Ted creator recently, and others, it is a high-stakes move because it does tend to stir more of the disbelief from the public a little bit. You're seeing the power structures making an example of them. I do think that's partly why they're going after it. But there is a flip side to that coin where hopefully you're going to see some kind of backlash and people
I'm not sure that's the case, though, because they're the cases we hear about. I mean, this is a famous individual. Graham's famous, but there are a frightening number of people who are hit with these charges, who have people show up, police officers show up to their houses
like
to
the
question
woman
them.
Praying in front of the abortion clinic and all those people.
Oh, there's so many grandmothers for sharing memes on social media. And just the case recently, which did get a lot of media attention, thankfully, which was a young woman who was put in hospital after an assault.
Yes.
And she called her alleged assailant a homophobic slur in a private text message to somebody she knew.
Who snitched on her.
And she had 11 police officers show up to her house.
Absolutely.
11.
It was outrageous, that one, because she literally physically was a victim. My point is maybe if they go after famous people, the devil is overplaying its hand. But we shall see. We shall see, because not yet. And if you just look at the judge over there, they really seem to believe this principle, which is that words can harm people. And the whole point of free speech is that the answer to speech you don't like is more speech, not less speech. And words do not kill people, no matter what they are.
But in the UK, social media posts that cause distress and anxiety could see you before the courts and with a conviction. Just madness. Now let's go to the US, and the press is continuing to focus on the narco boat and the drug runners that were neutralised with 2 separate strikes, and President Trump's patience seems to be wavering.
Admitting to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was
You're
up
the
to
most
Secretary Hicks.
obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, a terrible reporter, and it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
Kosha, I get the feeling that the Republicans are quite happy with the media's fixation on this issue, because the average American really doesn't care about how these narco terrorists are being blown up in the Caribbean Ocean or the Eastern Pacific Ocean. They're quite happy for these drugs not to be coming into the country.
Absolutely. Politically, this is a slam dunk, just immigration more broadly for the president, securing the border, stopping the inflow of fentanyl. This fits into that. There is a little subcurrent on the right of people worried that this is indicative of escalatory action against Venezuela, the country, potentially. So, that maybe is a side point. But broadly, this issue has full support of the people. The real reason, I think, for why the Democrats are doing this, though, their real agenda is not the political hit. It is laying the groundwork for impeachment 3.0, 4.0, 5.0 if they take the House and the Senate. I think we're going to be seeing them finding all sorts of things to throw at President Trump and hamstring him further and maybe even impeach him finally. So that's what this is about.
That seems to be their only plan, impeachment. And I think Trump doesn't care about that.
And now,
he cares about it dominating the media and taking oxygen away from what he's actually trying to implement. But I don't think he cares about being impeached. Just like he didn't really care about the indictments because he thinks they're bogus.
Yeah, that is kind of his superpower. He doesn't care about the negative publicity, if you will, and the fact that he won't run again. Maybe they won't go for it, but it is all about running out the clock, basically. And he's got 3 years left. If they hamstring him for half that time or he's defending an impeachment trial, he won't be doing other things to advance his agenda.
Now to an issue that deserves far greater coverage, always did, and that's the plight of children forced into labour or trafficked for sex after they cross the southern border without their parents under the Biden administration. Whistleblowers have alleged that more than 300,000 migrant children, some estimate around 500,000, were missing or lost due to the Biden administration's border crisis. Border Czar Tom Homan spoke this week about tens of thousands of these children being rescued.
Children that weren't even being looked for under the Biden administration. President Trump saved over 62,000 children's lives. Some of these children were in sex trafficking, we found them. Some were in forced labor. Some were being mistreated. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment we found out about.
A Department of Homeland Security report last year concluded that ICE had released hundreds of thousands of migrant children without notices to appear in court during the Biden presidency, and they have no way to track them after these children cross the border as unaccompanied minors kosher. Again, one issue that should be getting so much more media scrutiny if the media wasn't obsessed with narco boats and narco terrorists.
100%. This is one of many and probably the worst undertold cost of the illegal immigration crisis, which is what it is. And there's entire organizations that are taking children, using them as a passport, figuratively speaking, to enter the country, because you can latch onto that and then get more favorable case verdicts for asylum and other things like that, even if they're not their own children. And then, as you just cited, that the previous administration didn't care. There's anywhere from 300 to 500,000 children. We can only imagine the conditions they're in and what they've been made to do. And if they recovered 62,000, as Tom Homan said, we're 10 to 20% of the way there. And so hopefully this would be another great outcome of this presidency. If they keep up that pace, that they'll be pretty close to 80, 90% of them recovering. Sadly, not all of them will be. And maybe an aside, but since they will never give President Trump the Peace Prize, maybe somebody should nominate Tom Homan for the Peace Prize for rescuing hundreds of thousands of children, hopefully by the end of this term.
Now, we discussed at the time the viral video of Tish Hyman, who is a black lesbian who encountered a male body in the women's locker room, a naked male body, and because she objected, she was the one banned from the gym. Well, she has been attending events with Democrat politicians and politely asking them why they back policies that put women in danger. Here she is with Roy Kana.
Women, including myself, are being harassed by naked men in our locker rooms. In my case, the man in my locker room was a convicted domestic abuser who broke his wife's jaw so badly she needed surgery. Why issue a sensational warning about hypothetical genital checks when the real harassment of girls is happening right here under our current laws that allow men to self-ID into our spaces?
That has nothing to do, in my view, with someone who is trans and who identify as a woman, saying that they can be using the locker room or bathroom which they identify with. That is their right. Now, if that person, if I could just finish.
Oh, it's so frustrating, Coach. He just doesn't get it. It's all about self-ID with these clowns. He even wants male bodies competing in women's sport as long as those male bodies identify as female. He completely missed the point there because that individual did have a history of violence, terrible violence, but according to Rokana, what he was doing in that locker room was perfectly fine because he identifies as a woman and he wasn't beating anyone up at that time, so he was entitled to be there.
Deserves a medal. I think if he truly didn't get it, it would almost be better. I think the reality is he does get it.
Yeah.
And he's being a coward. He's being a complete coward because he is hiding behind the legal argument that there's no legal remedy for arresting somebody before they've committed an assault just because they entered the wrong bathroom. If a male enters a female bathroom, there's no legal recourse. So he's hiding behind that technicality rather than being bold and brave and saying what we all know is real, protecting women's spaces. He has 2 kids. One is a daughter. I think she's 8 or 10 years old. I'm sure he would have a big problem if boys are competing in sports with her. I don't know this, but I would posit that that's a safe bet to make. Or if she found herself in a public bathroom where an intact male was in there. So he's just paying lip service because that is what the Democrat position is.
I don't even know at this stage whether they genuinely believe these positions or it's just part and parcel of the ideology they've signed up to, so they've got to mouth these ridiculous notions without actually believing them. It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's worse. I mean, it's even worse.
Because the people being impacted, like Tish, it doesn't matter if the politicians implementing these crazy policies actually believe in them or not, because there are victims of it every day.
And I hope she gets louder, because for a black lesbian Democrat voter from California to become a spokesperson for the size, that is something they probably didn't have on their bingo card.
Exactly. Coach Gator, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.